Can I ask you to take your seats, please? Thank you very much. I'm just going to do the pre-meeting announcement, but there are no planned fire drills. So if the alarm goes off, please leave the building in an orderly fashion through the nearest fire exit. Please use either the fire exit through the main doors of the hall or the fire exit in the storeroom adjacent to the stage. The fire assembly point is the island in front of the main entrance to the building. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please note that the meeting will be live streamed. Please switch off mobiles or turn them to silent. And please note that toilets and hand washing facilities are in the foyer area. So would you all please be upstanding to receive the chairman, the chairman's chaplain, and the chief executive.
For me to say.
It is my final visit to you today. The year has gone so very quickly, hasn't it? My mum used to say the older you get, the quicker it goes. I think she was right. But it has been a real privilege for me to be chaplain to Mike, but more importantly, to be praying for you as elected members by the public to represent them in the arena of the political movements in our areas. So this will be my final evening with you, and I'm staying to listen and see what goes on. So hopefully you'll be on your best behaviour this evening. But I'm going to pray for you before we begin. So let us pray. Almighty God, we bring before you the agenda for tonight's meeting, that we who have been entrusted with the responsibility to govern and make decisions for those who have elected us will be guided by the best of motives and with the interests of all for the benefit of all. We ask that you would give us clear minds and the desire to hear all points of view, including those who may be diametrically opposed to our own. We pray for openness in our debate. Make us gracious and courteous to friend and opponent alike, with a real sense of working together for this district and the areas that are represented by each of our district councillors. At the same time, Lord, we commend for your blessing the work of all the employees of Rochford District Council, who maintain, implement and make possible the words that are debated, discussed and formed into policy. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer, and if you know the words and would like to join in, then please do so. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And finally, a prayer for Mike. Lord, we thank you for his witness and his work. We thank you for his commitment and pray now that he would know your blessing as he passes the mantle over. And we pray for his successor, that they too would work for the good of all. We ask this in Jesus' name. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you all and all whom you love, this night and forevermore. Amen. Thank you, Mike.
Kim, thank you very much for everything
My
you've done.
privilege. Thank
It
you.
won't be the last we shall see each other.
Absolutely.
We're working very hard to find a way to get rid of the bats in your belfry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, councillors. Thank you.
Members, please be seated. I'd like to welcome you all to Rochford District Council's annual council meeting. Can I please take this opportunity to welcome in all the new elected members to the council on this first formal Rochford District Council meeting of this municipal year. Councillor Booth, Councillor Mrs Brewer, Councillor Linden, Councillor Elliot Mason and Councillor Mrs Page. I would like to welcome all those re-elected members and all other members, council officers and members of the public who are joining this evening. I would like to say farewell to all those councillors who are no longer serving as councillors following this year's election, and that was Councillor Tony Carter, Councillor Lumley, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Webb and Councillor Wilkinson, and thank them for their service to the council and to the residents of Rochford District. Members, when I invite you to speak, please ensure you have the microphone in front of you before speaking, as the microphones are needed for the hearing loop and for the live stream. They're all switched on for you to speak, so you do not need to adjust them. But members, you need to switch them on. You have a button in front of you, and the chairman has the privilege. He does have a mute button as well, so you are warned. Given the size of the room and the number of us present, when you wish to speak or vote, can you please raise your hand clearly, and as I said before, like when you were at school, high in the air, so it can easily be seen by all, and leave it up until you have asked to lower it. Members of the public, while you are of course entitled to film or take photographs during this meeting, can I please emphasise to do that you should be done without disruption to the meeting and can only be done from the designated area in the public seating. Can I please therefore ask if you would raise your hand clearly in the air if you wish to take photographs or film this evening. Okay, thank you. Okay, that moves us on to item 1, to elect the chairman for the council for the 2023-24 municipal year. I believe Councillor Hoy.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to nominate Councillor Jack Lawman to the role of Chairman.
And do you have a seconder? Okay, thank you. Right, members. Those members in favour, please raise your hand clearly in the air and keep them there until I ask you to lower them. Those in favour. Okay. Please lower your hands. Can those members against, please raise your hand clearly in the air and keep them up until I ask you to lower them. Those against? Okay. Thank you, members. Those members wishing to abstain, please raise your hand. Thank you, members. Lower hand. Okay, members. That's 4, 22, abstain 13. Can I ask Councillor Lawman to join me? Okay, Jack, where's my permission here? Okay. Congratulations. You now need to sign.
I'll just see if I've got anything to say first. I want to thank people. Members, can I just take firstly this opportunity to thank everybody for voting for me and for those that didn't abstain for not voting against me. But I'll take that as unanimous. But thank you very much, and I hope that my performance over the coming year will be exactly what you expected, and I will present myself with honour towards this council. Thank you very much. I'll now. Oh, they've got. Okay. Right, I now read the declaration. I, Jack Leslie Norman, having been elected to the office of Chairman of the Council of the District of Romford, declare that I take this office. Romford? Rochford. It's the way it's written. Well, at least you're listening. At least you're all listening. That's the way. Right, this is Romford. Of Rochford, I declare that I take this office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of the Rochford District Council, dated the 23rd of May 2023. Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity now to make thanks to our past chairman, Councillor Mike Steptoe, for the work he's carried out this year. He's done an absolutely blinding job, a superb job, and I'm grateful for the leadership that he's shown to this council over the preceding year. I'd like to take the opportunity now to present him with a past jewel. Oh, here it is. Thank you very much. As a recognition of the work that you've carried out, and you deserve every part of it.
Thank you.
What have I do? Do it up. Well done, mate.
Thank you very much.
Many congratulations, you deserve it.
Thank you.
If any member wishes to make a comment, please do. You want something?
Yes, I'd like to say a few words if I may. They're very sensitive, these microphones. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and members of our community. It's a strange job. You vote yourself in and then you vote yourself out. So it is a bit of a strange job. Today, as my chairman comes to an end, I stand before you with mixed emotions. It's a bittersweet moment filled with gratitude for the incredible journey we have shared, and a touch of sadness as I bid farewell to the role that I've been an honour and a privilege to fulfil. I reflect upon my year in office and I'm filled with a sense of pride and awe at the collective achievement we have celebrated. What a year it's been. You could never have actually predicted some of the events that were going to happen. This year has marked a significant milestone and shaped our community and touched our hearts. The Jubilee celebrations, a testament to our enduring spirit and unity, allowed us to come together in joyous celebration. And Jack, I will just comment, it's amazing the number of places you can gate crash wearing the chain. I did it on the Jubilee and I ended up in all sorts of places.
So you were with Megan then?
Yes. However, in the midst of our Jubilee festivals, we experienced the loss and passing of our beloved Queen. It was a moment of great sadness and reflection, and we mourned the loss of a remarkable leader who embodied grace, dedication, and unwavering commitment to our nation. Together we found support, comfort, and strength during the time of grief. And we eagerly anticipated the new King's coronation. The historic event filled our hearts with hope, excitement, and renewal of a sense of purpose. Members, just going off script, if you think about it, we had a Jubilee. I then attended 2 gun salutes, one of 95 for the death of the Queen, and then another one to announce the new King. I'm still amazed how they kept count of all them gunshots going off without missing any. We've then had 3 prime ministers and counting, and 5 chancellors and counting. We then had to read the proclamation for the new King, and believe you me, I can't thank the team behind the scenes, can't see where Holly is, and all the work they put into doing that. We didn't get the final script until I think it was the afternoon before, and there's quite a lot of words in there that I've never used before. And then we, of course, go on to the coronation and everything else. Who could have predicted that was going to happen all in one year? Today, I wish to celebrate the accomplishments of our community, the countless individuals, businesses, and organisations that have rallied together to create a lasting impact. It is your resilience, your passion, and your unwavering support that have brought us where we are today. During my tenure as chairman, I've been privileged to witness incredible powers of community in action. Just to mention a couple of events that I attended. One was at Swain School, it was a Hindu, and it was described to me as the Hindu Harvest Festival. Very, very colourful. All the ladies were wearing saris. And I've never seen such well-organised chaos. Believe you me, there were so many things going on at the same time, it was unbelievable. And then towards the end, the biggest game of musical chairs I've ever seen. There was 100 ladies in saris all sat down for a game of musical chairs. Absolutely unbelievable. The other event that I attended was not too far from here, was the church just opposite the entrance to George's Park, just up the road here. Church had been recently taken over by a Christian group which stems from Nigeria. And when I arrived, I was dressed as you see me now, with the chain. And as we arrived, everybody was dressed in pure white, from the hats to their shoes, everything. And of course, I stood out like a sore thumb. I do it the best of times with the chain and everything else. And just to save any confusion, they also presented me with this, just in case they forgot who I was. If anybody wants the chance to go and see them, they're along the Eastwood Road there, and they'll be more than welcome you on a Sunday morning for their services. I step down from this role, and I'm grateful for the trust you have replaced in me, for the opportunity to serve alongside the remarkable individuals and the countless movements of inspiration and calibration. Together, we have demonstrated that when a community unites behind a common purpose, there is no limit to what can be achieved. As we embark on a new chapter, I am confident that our community will continue to thrive, guided by the principles of compassion, unity, and progress. I have every faith in our incoming chairman, whose leadership and dedication will undoubtedly prepare us to even greater heights. Together, we will continue to build a community that is inclusive, vibrant, and filled with the boundless opportunities for all. I'd also like to thank you for the support to my charities, which were Trust Links and Achievement Through Football, both very much for the youth and the younger people in mind. They are the ones that are going to replace us in the years to come. And we need to make sure they have the right start. And my charity, and I have the honour tomorrow to present the cheques to the two charities, which are TrustLink and Achievement Through Football. I've been very privileged to be able to say that we've raised £7,347.90. So thank you, members. That comes from all the support you have given me in attending events and various things, not forgetting the chief exec trip up a number of hills over a period. I forget how many hills it actually was now. In closing, I would like to express my deepest thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you for your unwavering support, your commitment to our community, and your belief in a future filled with hope and possibility. It has been great to serve as your chair. May our community come to thrive and inspire the generations to come. Members of the public, thank you very much indeed.
Before you go, I'll just open it to the members if they wish to make any comment. If you would just...
Okay.
Councillor Wood. Councillor Norman, firstly, can I be one of the first to congratulate you on your appointment? I am sure that your appointment tonight puts right something that you didn't quite achieve a few years ago, and
time has caught up and perhaps that's now put it right. So I sincerely wish you a good year. It's an honour and a privilege. I know that you particularly feel in the opportunity to represent Rochford District Council, and I'm sure you'll do it with honour, passion and good faith and everything else, and we wish you well. Turning to the ex-chairman, Councillor Steptoe, you have represented this district well in the last year, again with passion, with enthusiasm, dedication and impartiality, which is the chairman's role actually, to make sure that fairness is done all round, and I know that's been a key aspect that you've, as one of the real passions that you've had. Certainly, I wish you well as you rejoin the ranks of the Conservative group back here, and thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you both.
Are there any other members that wish to make comment? Councillor Mrs Mason.
Thank you. And I can address you as chair for the first time, Councillor Long. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy your year, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting one, and we welcome you to the post. I'd also like to express on behalf, I'm sure, of my group, and I'm sure of other members here that aren't perhaps in my group, the thanks to Councillor Steptoe for the fairness and the directness and the way that he's conducted the last year. It's always difficult for a party that is small, and we like the respect that you've shown us. Thank you, it was appreciated, and all the best for the future.
There being no other members, thank you. I'll be the first to congratulate you on your way out.
Have a great day. Yeah. Well done. Have a good year.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you, members.
Members, we'll now take item 3 to elect the vice chairman of the council for the 2023-2024 ensuing year, municipal year. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Councillor Page.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Newport?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second that nomination, please.
Thank you. There, members, we have a proposition. There be no other nominations. We have a proposition to elect Councillor Page as Vice Chairman. Will all those in favour please raise your hands and keep them up until told to take them down? All those in favour? Thank you, members. To the contrary, if any? No. Any abstentions? The members, that motion is carried. It's 22 for, 0 against and 13 abstentions. I therefore declare Councillor Sarah Jane Page Vice Chairman. If you'd like to come this way, please.
Just like this.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
Right. do that first? Okay, so Sarah James Page, I've got great pleasure in presenting you with the Vice Chairman's medallion, or whatever you want to call it, and I wish you well in the coming year, and I'm sure we're going to be working well together.
God bless you.
If you'd like to take the, or make any comments you wish.
I would just like to thank everybody very, very much for your support and to elevating me into such a privileged and honoured situation. It's very humbling for me, and I'm looking very much forward to working and serving our beautiful community. I'm incredibly grateful. Bless you. Thank you. I've got to read this.
It's Rochford.
Yeah, I know it's Rochford. I, Sarah Jane Page, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of the Council of the District of Rochford, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of Rochford District Council. Is there a date? No, is it? Just sign there. I'm showing you. Thank you very much. I'd like to give a big thanks to Jo McPherson, the outgoing Vice Chairman, and very grateful for the very hard work that she's put in this year with Mike Steptoe. And may I ask you at this point, Mike, to say a few words about Jo for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Jo sadly can't be with us here this evening, but she asked me to read out a message from her. But first of all, I would just like to say thanks to her, put it on record, of all the support that she's given me in particular. Through my year as chairman, I couldn't have asked for a better vice chairman. These are Jo's words, and I read from what she has given me here. My year as vice chairman certainly gave me clarity on how very hard the role is at full council meetings. But the other side of the role, representing Rochford District Council at events, was an absolute honour. I attended many events on behalf of Rochford Council, and to name just a few: the Jack Petrie Awards, hearing the achievements of young people from the district; Southend University Awards; South East Essex Schools Music Festival; the Lions Club Disability Sports Day; many charity events, including MenCap, TrustLinks, Carers Care; the Holocaust Memorial Day, representing RDC on Remembrance Day, the sad loss of our beloved Queen, and a proclamation of the new King. And most recently, the evening song to celebrate the coronation of the King at Chelmsford Cathedral. I hope everyone feels that I undertook the role well in supporting Mike in his year as chairman. I would sincerely have loved to have been chairman this municipal year. Alas, that is not to be. I wish the incoming chairman well, and to all members, old and new, in addition to the 7 Nolan principles of public life, please remember to add a little kindness, be kind to fellow members, officers, and to yourself. They're her words, Chairman. Thank you.
Yes.
It would take agenda item 5, which is the chaplain for the forthcoming year. I haven't sorted that out. I will announce any decision on that at the next meeting. Agenda item 6, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Mrs McPherson, Councillor Myers and Councillor Sharp. Are there any other absentees? Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Tracy Knight.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda to approve the meetings held on the 15th of February 2023 and the 21st of February 2023, all been circulated. Members, would you please approve the minutes? Are you all in agreement? Thank you. I see that's passed. Item 8, announcements for the chairman and or head of palace service. There are none for the chief executive. I will, again, my charity, because I was only sort of like notified rather quickly. So I haven't organised charities at the moment, but I have got that in place, and hopefully that again will be announced at the next meeting. And I hope I could do as well as Councillor Steptoe, or better. Item 9, to elect the leader of the council for a 4-year period. When we do this, can the members please hold their hands up clearly so that they can be counted and put them down when told to do so? Do we have any nominations? Councillor Newport.
Thank you, Chairman. And sorry, may I take the opportunity to congratulate you, Chairman, on your new position. Chairman, I have great pleasure to nominate Councillor John Mason for leader of the council.
Do we have a seconder?
Thank you, Chairman. I have also great pleasure in seconding Councillor John Mason for the position of leader of the council.
No other nominations? Members, we have a nomination of Councillor John Mason for leader of the council for the forthcoming term. All those in favour? Well, you can, but I won't because I'll be a deciding vote, you see. I'm pushing all these buttons. Well, I can play a piano when I finished here. Right, any to the contrary? Any abstentions? Members, we have 22 for, none against and 13 abstentions. I therefore declare that proposition carried. Councillor Mason, you are now elected. If you wish to say something.
Please, Chairman. I've got a few sheets of paper. Chairman, can I also, like all the others, welcome you and congratulate you for your role as Chairman of the Council. On a personal note, I would like to say what an amazing honour it is to be chosen to serve the Council and residents in this role. On behalf of the Council, I would like to thank Councillor Simon Wootton for his service as leader to the Council and Rochford District. Thank you, Simon. For the next part, I am speaking on behalf of the 4 groups, which will be working together in a joint administration for Rochford District Council. Independent and Green, Liberal Democrats, Rochford District Independents, Rochford District Residents. Over the last 2 weeks, assisted by Jonathan Stevenson, Emily Yule and Steve Summers on technical matters, The group leaders have worked very diligently together to create an agreement which is referred to as the Memorandum of Understanding between the groups. I'm sure at this point I have to think of a past councillor, and I think of the late Councillor Chris Black, who was a great friend of mine and others in the chamber. He shared this ambition that we're embarking upon as a joint administration, and I am sure he would be very, very pleased and proud of the achievement the team that has put together the MOU, as we now call it, for the administration, a new administration of the council. The agreed MOU has, as a matter of courtesy, been provided to the leaders of those groups that are not part of the joint administration, and I also included Councillor Joe McPherson in that. I am now going to refer to the most important parts of the MOU, but a full copy will be circulated to all members of the council within the minutes of this annual council meeting. The groups will work together in a spirit of trust, fairness and mutual cooperation for the benefit of the residents of Rochford. This includes a commitment to acting in good faith, to maintaining constructive dialogue, to being open to alternative views, and to being inclusive in sharing information with each other. Democracy sits at the heart of this working together arrangement, with politically representative decision-making and meaningful public engagement. Openness and transparency will be a priority for the joint administration. This working arrangement will avoid creating unnecessary bureaucracy and enable engagement of all councillors, allowing for proper debate on issues where there is a genuine disagreement, whilst facilitating the rapid progress of council business where consensus exists. The joint administration is committed to implementing a committee system style of governance from May 2024, subject to the approval of the council later in this meeting. During the 23-24 municipal year, the joint administration will continue to operate the leader and executive form of governance, but it will be preparing for transition to a committee governance system. By collective discussion and agreement, the executive will be made up as follows. Deputy leaders of the council, Councillor Michael Hoy and Councillor James Newport. There will be executive lead members. That is the new name for portfolio holders. The executive lead members, in alphabetical order. Councillor Jim Cripps, Councillor Adrian Eves, Councillor Julie Gooding, Councillor Lisa Newport, Councillor Chris Stanley, Councillor Arthur Williams, and Councillor Vilma Wilson. I welcome you all to the executive. Allocation of lead members for specific functions will replace the portfolio holder system. There will be no delegated decision-making authority to the lead members, and all decisions will be made collectively by the executive. There's a great deal more in the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and as I said earlier, it will be circulated in full and transparently to all members of the council with the minutes of this meeting. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and introduce the new administration to the council.
Councillor Mrs. Mason, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, well, I think I ought to congratulate my husband, but I wasn't going to do that, but I will. But firstly, on a more serious note, I would like to echo the thanks expressed to Councillor Wootton and all his group for their hard work. Whilst change can be unsettling, it should be seen in a positive light. And I would like to thank Councillor John Mason for accepting the role as Leader of Administration. I'm sure that under his leadership, Rochford District Council will be effective during this difficult transition period. Now, I obviously didn't share with John because I'm going to say the Memorandum of Article of Understanding states that democracy sits at the heart of this working together agreement. And I think that's a very important concept. And also to enable the engagement of all councillors, allowing for proper debate. I trust that we will all, and I do mean all, work together respectfully in a positive, inclusive and constructive way for the benefit of the community we all love and serve. So thank you to the outgoing leader and the incoming leader. Thank you.
Councillor Wootton.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both to Councillor Mrs. Christine and Mr. John Mason for your kind words. They're much appreciated. You'll be pleased to know that I haven't got lots of bits of paper, so it'll be fairly short, but congratulations. I think you know already it's a tough job. The simple fact is that is what leadership is all about. And it's a privilege at the same time, as was said earlier, to be the leader of this great council. I think you know, it's that expression, you can please some of the people some of the time, but very definitely you can't please all of the people all of the time. And I think you know that already. But one thing that you will find in this spirit of comradeship is that we will be an opposition that will be constructive, we will be challenging, and we will work with you where we feel able to work, but we will hold the administration to account, which is what oppositions should do. But what I would say in my time as leader, we had 2 or 3 occasions where very serious, all our decisions are serious, but I think about the partnership with Brentwood. And we all came together for the good of the council. It was a unanimous vote to work. And there's been 1 or 2 like that. And actually, I think the strength of this authority is when we do feel able to come together in that way. So you have my personal assurance that as a group, we will work with the new administration. We wish you well, and thank you very much indeed for your kind words. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
We'll now take agenda item 10, district and parish council election results. Are these noted? Sorry,
Chairman, I
Councillor.
had indicated to talk. I might be a bit far away for people to see.
I'm sorry, I apologise, I didn't see. Did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, if I may. I'll get a flag in future. I did just want to say a few words on this occasion because I think it's very important. It's on a personal level and on a public level as well. When I first joined this council in 2010, Sonia, in her wisdom, decided to sit me next to Councillor John Mason. And I've sat next to him for very many years, shaking his head. That was a bad choice. Ever since that time, I've considered him a friend. I think in that time, John, I think there were 6 opposition members and maybe 33 Conservatives. So I know this has been a long time coming for you because you were there a long time before me. And I just want to say that I know that John will prove to be a great and inspiring leader for this council. And I know it's going to be hard. And I'm aware that Councillor Mrs. Belton brought up something I said in the last budget meeting about we may be in your position this time. And it's not as we might think it's easy from the opposition side, but we know it's not, it's hard. And I just want to echo that again. Finally, I just want to ask the public and Save the Milk campaign in particular to hold us to account in the same way they held the former administration to account. Thank you.
No one else wish to speak? I do apologise, councillor Hoy, I just didn't see your hand. Right, okay, then we'll take on item 10 then, the district and parish election results. Are these noted, members? Okay. Item 11, notice of group membership. Are these noted? Right. Item 12, appointment of the executive and committees. I will invite the councillor's monitoring officer, Mr Hunkin, to introduce item 12 on appointments to the executive and committees for 2023 to 2024.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is item 12 on your agenda. It's the appointment of the executive and committees for 2023-24. With regard to the executive, our leader has given the names of the members who are in the executive, and I'm sure for our further details, they will follow in the future. And so now we can turn our attention to the committees. And the council is asked to constitute and agree the allocation of seats with the terms of reference set out in Appendix 1, and to appoint the membership of committees, and to appoint the chairman and vice chairman of committees, and to appoint an armed forces covenant champion. Now, there are a number of votes to be taken here, and what the chairman has asked me to do is to actually conduct the vote itself, but he will then announce the result. So if I can take you to the first recommendation itself, which is that the committees be constituted as set out in Appendix 1 to this report. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for that, please? And then this is a very simple vote of, again, it will be for, against, and abstains. So can I ask for those who voting for to raise their hands, please?
Is that one?
No.
I've got it here. I've got it here. That's what I did.
And members, now those voting against, and any abstentions.
Okay. Which one was that one for? Committee's constituted, right, item 1. That's purely on our recommendations, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There's an error in the document.
This is the original. Mr. Chair, this is the original document. We think there's an error in the document. This was the original document. It was slightly altered.
What's the error?
Councillor Christine Mason, could you share that with us, please? What do you think it ought to be?
Hasn't it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Could you share the error?
Yeah, share the error with us.
Can you tell us what the error is, please?
Some of the seats were altered and the chart was altered and a new chart came round, I believe.
Because we don't know which one we got.
I've not altered the
Could you have a look at it?
Can we just take a 5-minute adjournment? while we
Yeah, we're
change?
just suggesting we have a short adjournment while this little administration is sorted out. We've got to get it right.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's an opportunity if anybody wants to take a quick break for ablutions or something.
No, but it says 9 and we've got 11 there.
Members, if you could take your seats, please, we'd like to reconvene the meeting. Thank you, members. The time now, 8:20 to 9. I declare we're back in action, and I'd like to put it back to Sonia, if I may, please.
Members, thank you for your patience. As you'll appreciate, a lot of this information was, it was quite sort of late, so there've been lots of discussions going on with group leaders. And if you look at the table, Appendix 1 on page 12.5 of your reports, scroll down to the Licensing and Appeals Committee. As a result of discussions amongst group leaders, the Rochford district residents for licensing and appeals, they have swapped a seat with the non-grouped member. So the 3 for Rochford district resident goes down to 2, and the non-group member seat goes up to 1. Okay. Then if you look next at overview and scrutiny, the independent and green group have swapped 1 seat, again with a non-group member. So their number for overview and scrutiny goes down from 2 to 1, and the non-group member gains a seat. And then finally, if you look at the Standards Committee, Rochford district residents have swapped a seat, again with the non-group member. So the number of seats for Rochford district residents goes up from 1 to 2, and the non-group member has down from 1 to 0 seat. Hopefully that clarifies, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. So has anybody got any questions or didn't pick that up? Or has any points to say on that before we start? Councillor Mason.
Chairman, I'm grateful to you and all the members for getting involved in sorting out that inadvertent error. You had taken a vote, Chairman, but you hadn't declared it. Can I assume you will now take a fresh vote?
As you mentioned, I would expect that to be done. I'll leave that to Andrew.
Chairman, so if we can now go to the vote again. So it is as the amended Appendix 1 with those figures that Sonia has just written out. And I ask for members who are for that recommendation, please. And against? And any abstentions?
Members, the figures are 33 for, 0 against, and 1 abstention. So that is carried. And thank you very much for your understanding. Thank you.
Chairman, if I can now turn to the second recommendation, that members be appointed to serve on committees for the 2023-24 municipal year. And this is as set out in item 12, addendum 1. And I am able to announce that the figures in here are as in the revised Appendix 1. So there is no issue with regards to that. And to that end, I would suggest that we have just the one vote on this as we would normally do. And Chairman, if you're happy, I'll now conduct that vote. And it is that with regards to The addendum, that members be appointed to serve on committees for the 2022-23 municipal year as set out at addendum 1. And the members, can I ask those in favour, please?
How many have we got? 4? Sorry. You may put them down now. Can't get the staff. So, members, that is unanimous and therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can now turn to recommendation 3, that the chairman and vice chairman of committees be appointed for the 2023-24 municipal year. And this is as set out in addendum 2 to item 12. Now, members and chairman, there are a number of nominations here, and therefore I would just like to explain for the first committee where we have 2 nominations, that the voting procedure is that each member has 1 vote, and there are 2 members who are here, and I'll read their names out in a minute, and you'll be asked to vote for the first member or to vote for the second member, and then I'll ask for abstentions after that. So the nominations, and this is for the audit committee, the nominations for chairman are Councillor Mrs. L.A. Butcher and Councillor R. Milne. So I will now ask for votes in favour of Mrs. L.A. Butcher. So votes in favour for Mrs. L.A. Butcher. Thank you, members. And now votes in favour of Councillor R. Milne. And finally, are there any abstentions?
Members, the votes are 13 for Councillor Butcher, 22 for Councillor Milne, no abstentions and no objections, and therefore Councillor Milne wins that vote.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can remain with the Audit Committee, but now we're looking at nominations for the Vice Chairman. Again, we have 2 nominations, and those are Councillor Mrs. L.A. Butcher and Councillor S.A. Wilson. And again, I will ask for votes in turn for each of those, followed by abstentions. So the first vote is for Councillor Mrs. L.A. Butcher. Those in favour? And now those in favour of Councillor S.A. Wilson.
Sorry.
And are there any extensions?
Thank you. The result of members, the result of that are Councillor Butcher, Mrs. Butcher, 13, Councillor Mrs. Wilson, 22. Therefore, Mrs. Wilson has the vote. Duly elected.
Hello, I'm really sorry, Chair. It's not me. It's the other Councillor Wilson.
Oh, sorry, have I got the wrong one?
You have, yes.
I do apologise.
Yeah, you're forgiven.
I'm only going what's on there. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. If I can now turn to the Chief Officer Appointments Committee. There is one nomination for chairman, and that is Councillor J.E. Newport. So can I ask for those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions?
Members, there's 22 for and 3 abstentions and none against, so that motion is carried.
Thank you, Chairman. So the same committee, Chief Officer Appointments. We have one nomination for Vice Chairman, and that is Councillor Mrs. J.R. Gooding. And again, can I ask for members for, please? Against? And abstentions?
Members, the result there is 26 for, no objections and 9 abstentions. Therefore, that motion has been carried.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can turn to the Development Committee. Again, we have 2 nominations here, so I'll read out the names of both. Each member has 1 vote. The 2 nominations are for Councillor A.H. Eves and Councillor Mrs. L. Shaw, and I will come with to Councillor A.H. Eves first and ask for those in favour. And now, members, those in favour of Councillor Mrs. L. Shaw. And any abstentions?
Members, the results are Councillor Eves 23, Councillor Mrs. Shaw 10, 2 abstentions, no objections, and therefore Councillor Eves is duly elected.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can turn to the Vice Chairman for the Development Committee. Again, there are 2 nominations. I'll read out both names first and then ask for votes. Councillor D.S. Efty and Councillor Mrs. V.A. Wilson. And I will go to Councillor D.S. Efty first and those for. And now those in favour of Councillor Mrs. V.A. Wilson. And are there any abstentions?
No. Thank you, members. That's Councillor SD 13, Councillor Mrs. Wilson 22. Therefore, Mrs. Wilson is nominated.
Chairman, this is for the Licensing and Appeals Committee. Again, there are 2 nominations. These are for Councillor D.S. Efty and Councillor R. Lambourne. Can I ask first for Councillor D.S. Efty, votes for? And now Councillor R. Lambourne, votes for. And any abstentions?
So the results are Councillor FD 13, Councillor Lambourne 22, therefore Councillor Lambourne wins that vote. Thank you.
Chairman, there are two nominations for the Vice Chairman of the Licensing Appeals Committee. And those are Councillor A.G. Cross and Councillor Mrs. L. Shaw. So I'll go to Councillor A.G. Cross, votes for. And Mrs. L. Shaw, votes for. And are there any abstentions?
Members, the vote is Councillor Cross 22, Councillor Shaw, Mrs. Shaw 13, therefore Councillor Cross is duly elected.
Thank you, Chairman. Turning to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Again, we have two nominations. Those are for Councillor Mrs. D.L. Belton and Mrs. J.E. McPherson. If I deal with Councillor Mrs. D.L. Belton first, those in favour? And now for Mrs. J.E. McPherson, those in favour? And any abstentions?
The members, the result there is Mrs. Belton, Councillor Mrs. Belton 11, Councillor Mrs. McPherson 23, and one abstention. Therefore, Councillor McPherson wins that vote.
Thank you, Chairman. We now turn to the Vice Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny. Again, there are two nominations. Councillor N.J. Booth and Councillor Mrs. E.P. Gadsden. If I turn to Councillor N.J. Booth first, those in favour? And Mrs. E.P. Gadsden, those in favour? And are there any abstentions? No?
Members, the result of that vote is Councillor Booth 22, Councillor Gladstone 13. So Councillor Booth wins that one.
Thank you, Chairman. This is for the Planning Policy Committee. Nomination for Chairman, we only have one. That is for Councillor J.E. Cripps. So can I ask for members for, please? Against? And abstentions? Two there.
Members, that's 32 for, 2 abstentions and no objections. That's for Councillor Cripps.
Thank you, Chairman. Now for the Vice Chairman of the Planning Policy Committee, one nomination, and that is Councillor M.J. Steptoe. So can I ask for members for? Against? And abstentions?
Members, that's 33 for, 2 abstentions and none against. So Councillor Steptoe, you win that vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We now turn to the Standards Committee. We have 2 nominations for Chairman. And those are Councillor D.J. Sparing and Councillor Mrs. D.P. Squires Coleman. I will turn to Councillor D.J. Sparing, D.J. Sparing first and ask for those in favour. I will now go to Councillor Mrs. D.P. Squires Coleman and ask for those in favour. And are there any abstentions?
Members, the vote is as Councillor Sperring 13, Councillor Mrs. Squires Coleman 22. So Mrs. Squires Coleman wins that vote.
Chairman, I now turn to the Vice Chairman for the Standards Committee. There is one nomination. It is for Councillor R.C.D. Linden. Can I ask those in favour? Against? And abstentions?
Thank you, members. So 4 28, 5 against. Or was that abstentions? Abstentions. And none against. So Councillor Linden wins that vote.
Chairman, we come to the final committee, and this is for the Statutory Officer Personnel Committee. The one nomination for Chairman is Councillor Mrs. C.M. Mason. And may I have members for? Against? And then the abstentions? Three.
Thank you, members. That's 32 for, 3 abstentions. So Councillor Mason, Mrs. Mason wins that vote.
And Chairman, we have one nomination for the Vice Chairman of the Statutory Officer Personnel Committee, and that is Councillor S.E. Wootton. May I ask for votes for? Against? And abstentions?
So that's 32 for, 3 abstentions. So councillor Wootton is elected.
So Chairman, that takes me to the last recommendation.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, that was louder. Just a point as we come on to the next item, a question that was raised regarding our armed forces champion. It was considered, could this be a joint position? Councillor Butcher has represented the council for a number of years and he's extremely passionate about the armed forces. Councillor Stuart Wilson would also be a fantastic ambassador for this council, given that he is ex-services. So it was raised, given that the meetings are held during the day and outside of the district, might it be able to be a joint position? Just something for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, there's nothing in the Constitution to stop that. We see absolutely no reason why that couldn't go ahead. Sorry, I'll stand down for Councillor.
I think perhaps it might be work better as a substitute position. I don't know if that's what other members think. I know we last year did suggest a joint working arrangement, again with Councillor Mr Wilson and Councillor Mrs Butcher, and I think that was rejected by the then administration. So I'm sure if it was rejected last time, I'm not sure why it'd be acceptable this time.
Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Chairman. It was a regret of mine at the time that we didn't pursue the idea of having 2 members because, as has been said, I believe that Councillor Wilson would be excellent, and there's not a, can I just say, a fag paper to put between them in terms of how they would do the job. So I think one would help the other in terms of continuity, and where both can attend. I think that really shows Rochford's commitment to the armed services. I think it really is would endorse our commitment. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs Mason.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent idea and I would certainly support it. And if Councillor Belton would like to formally propose it, I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, I would like to propose it as a formal motion that the position is offered as a joint position.
Mrs Mason, you second that?
With pleasure.
Could you see a hand hovering at the back there? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. I was actually going to second it myself. Thank you.
Well, so, members, we have a proposition before you. I think the decent thing is to take a decision on this. So, all those in favour? Looks unanimous. Yeah. Councillor Ward, did you want to speak? So can we take extensions then? Those against first, please. Any abstention? They're working well together. They all disagree with each other. Members, there's 32 for, 3 abstentions, no objections, so that is carried. So we now have a joint facility there.
Chairman, if I can just, sorry, to cross the T's and dot the I's. We had the 2 members there. Sorry, I've lost my page, and they were Councillor Butcher and Councillor S.A. Wilson. And I think that we just right to make sure that we are voting those 2 in. So if I could ask for votes for Councillor Butcher.
Do we have 2?
Yes, you can have 2 votes.
We have 2 votes.
Yes.
We've still got a vote for that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Should we drop the motion?
So we've agreed the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's here.
Then for Councillor S.A. Wilson.
Yeah.
And then any abstentions?
Right, the results for that, members, is 30 votes for Mrs. Butcher, 35 votes to Mr. Wilson, and in the principle, that is all carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman, could you repeat the numbers, please?
30 for Councillor Mrs Butcher and 35 for Councillor Wilson.
Members, we're now going to agenda item 13, council meetings. Can I ask that members to approve the scheduling of council meeting as set out in the agenda for the 28th of June 2023, 18th of July 2023, 31st of October 2023, 14th of December 2023, 13th of February 2024, and the 20th of February 2024. Can I have your approval on this, please, members? Thank you, that's agreed. Okay, thank you. We will now take item 14, appointment of representatives to outside bodies and other forums, and I will invite Mr. Hunkin again, the monitoring officer, to do his job.
Sorry.
Councillor Mrs. Wilson, Mason.
I'll answer to anything within reason. Mr. Chairman, I would, bearing in mind the complexity of the voting arrangements and the seriousness of items 15 and 16, can I move that we reorder the agenda so that item 15 and 16 are taken before item 14? If I have a seconder for that. Councillor Wootton, thank you.
Did we have a second? Councillor Wootton. Members, there's propositions before you to change the agenda items. So all those approve it? All those agree?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, don't really large.
Well, this is a bit of a short.
To the contrary, if any?
It was carried.
It's been carried.
It's carried.
Yeah, I'll just take the vote. Right.
We don't know what they were voting. Councillor
Well, I'm
Reid.
just going to say it's approved.
It's carried, Sonia.
It's carried.
Yeah, members, that motion is carried. Right. So we'll now take item 15 then, shall we? Right, members, in view of that vote, we'll now change the items, and I think we're going on to item 15, am I correct? And I'll ask Mr. Stevenson, the Chief Executive, if he wishes to make his comments.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, as you're aware, this evening you've got an item on the agenda, item 15, that Mr. Hunkin will be leaving the council at the end of the month. Andrew has worked within local government for 41 years and has decided to retire at the end of May. I wish him very well and thank him for all his hard work in supporting us at Rochford District Council in the period that's been with us. As you're aware, the council has a duty to appoint 3 statutory officers, which is head of paid service, 151, and the monitoring officer. Tonight, we're appointing a monitoring officer at recommendation 8.1. There's 2 recommendations there, and the appointment is recommended of Emily Yule, who will take on the new monitoring officer, as in the report. I'm happy to take any questions if there is any on this report. Thank you.
No questions, members? Okay then. So members, there are 2 recommendations set out in paragraph 8.1 on page 15.2 of the report. One, that Emily Yule will be designated as the monitoring officer for the council, and 2, that the monitoring officer makes any necessary subsequent changes to the council's constitution. I will move these recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Efty. Right. Can those in favour of these raise their hands and keep them up while the officers count them? Thank you. Members, that is unanimous. Thank you, members. Members, we're now moving on to agenda item 16, adoption of the committee staff of governance. And that again, I'm calling upon Mr. Hunkin, the monitoring officer, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chairman. This report has been prepared at the request of a number of the political group leaders who wish to see the council adopt a committee style of governance. In summary, Chairman, the council may resolve to change its method of governance at any time by a simple majority vote. However, the change can only come into effect at an annual council meeting. The Centre for Governance and Scrutiny strongly recommends that there is a period of a minimum of 6 months between making the decision to change governance models and its implementation. This is to enable sufficient time to make the required constitutional amendments, to agree how the model will work in practice, for example, the number and size of committees, and for the necessary training for officers and members to operate in the new model. There are 4 recommendations in the report. Firstly, to agree to change the committee system, and then to initiate the necessary pieces of work to support that change. This includes asking the Constitutional Working Group to make recommendations to full council on the committee structure, a review of councillor allowances to fit the new governance arrangements, and instructing the monitoring officer to redraft the constitution to fit the committee system in consultation with the Constitutional Working Group. All of these items will be brought to full council for agreement. If the recommendations are agreed tonight, the council will be asked to appoint to the Constitutional Working Group at its next meeting in June. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Ward, do you have a question?
I actually have a statement, if I may, Chairman. I would ask this council to consider with caution what they are about to embark on in voting to return to a committee system of local government. I myself have had no experience of this but I have asked the advice of those councillors who were members prior to 2007 what their experience was, and I feel it appropriate to share that advice with newer members. First and foremost, the concept of that committee system will be more democratic, may not be the case as perceived. The officers will prepare the agendas and reports and give direction for the committees to decide, whilst the committee chairman will have no real decision-making powers. There will be no real accountability, as all committees will be amorphous and by their very nature unaccountable. The workload for members will increase as the necessity for decision-making makes that essential. Through the experiences of previous members I have spoken with, this extra workload very rarely produces the outcomes required at a pace that is often required, with more decisions being delayed due to calendar problems in fixing suitable committee dates. The scenario we will witness will be less member control of the council and far greater officer control of the council, its agendas, direction and steering regarding decisions to be made. If the committee system is adopted, as it is likely to be this evening, the officers, often by necessity and default, due to time constraints, will need to rush agreements through the various committees, often with scant scrutiny by members who are often worn out by paperwork and continual council meetings every evening. This is the future you will embark on, where you will agree to anything to get home and get a good night's sleep. And because of that, you will delegate the officers to run the council, as that will be an easy option for all concerned. I have worked over the last couple of years with many of the officers since the One Team was established, and I have the utmost respect for both their integrity and ability. But members need to go into this decision with their eyes wide open as to the potential outcomes, which may not be as they would hope. But whatever the outcome, I will still continue to be an active member of this council, advocating on behalf of my residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, you've asked me to just clarify something. At that point of this report, we were asking for questions, and we've not have any points of clarity that are required to me. Once we have dealt with those, we will ask for a proposer and a seconder of the recommendations within here, and then will come the time for debate.
Therefore, members, so we're taking questions. So have you anybody questions? Councillor Rafferty.
Thank you, Chair. First to decision with the working group to be formed. Now, what's been said earlier this evening with democracy and all to be part of the council together, how will the working group be formed? Will it be part, hope it'll be across the whole council with all political parties? Because this seems to be the most important thing with the composition of the terms of reference, where hopefully Councillor Ward's questions will be put at ease. I'm not against this, I just want more information.
Chairman, the Constitutional Working Group is a working group, so therefore it doesn't have to be pro rata, but the intentions are that it is represented by all parties across the council, and the details of that membership, how many will be in it, will be coming to the next meeting of the council.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question, really. Does accepting recommendation 1 lock us into a committee system from May 2024? even though we have zero knowledge of cost impacts at this point.
Chairman, yes, recommendation is clear that the committee system model of governance is adopted by Rochford District Council with the effect from the annual council meeting in May 2024. Obviously, the important thing is that there is a constitutional working group which will be formed from across the council, who will be able to have input into what that looks like, and also the final details will come back to the council. But recommendation is the adoption of the committee system.
Councillor Belton.
Thank you. I think this is sort of question as opposed to part of the debate that will come next. But my question is, we're being asked in recommendation 1 to adopt the committee system now, albeit it doesn't have to be adopted until 6 months before May 2024. And we're being asked to adopt it without a fair amount of the questions that need answering. Now, we've got multiple committee meetings before then. We have recommendation 2 regarding the constitutional working group, which makes perfect sense to me. It feels recommendation 1 is premature because we don't have all of the answers and we're actually making the decision 5 or 6 months prior than we need to. I'm certainly not against a committee system based on the report that I've read, although Councillor Ward has raised some very interesting points that I wasn't aware of and hadn't considered. But that just strengthens the question, should we wait till one of the next full council meetings to make such a decision on recommendation 1? So the question is, why do we need to do it tonight and not within the next 6 months? If that's easier, thanks.
Chairman, I could only repeat again, but this is a recommendation which is being put forward. Obviously you are able to do whatever you wish to do with that particular recommendation, but that is the recommendation which is brought forward to you tonight.
I think you need to propose in a second, don't you?
Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Chairman. Just by way of clarification, could we make an adjustment to our constitution to be able to do it at another time other than the annual council meeting? Because what I'm hearing is valid reasons, but I also accept the point that the administration may not want to defer it for effectively 2 years if you can only do it at the annual council. I understand that point, but it would be quite nice if, through a considered, debated process, we could do it beyond 2024, so that we're not actually rushing the consideration of the process. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Hoy. You're clearly windows down there, you know.
Thank you, Chairman. As one of the members who put this forward and asked for it to be at this meeting tonight, I understand the questions which are coming about why you're doing it now. However, it's quite long established that we may vote for this today, but there is a 6-month rule where it could be brought back again. So even if you are voting for it now, it could be reversed later, or when it goes to the council, it could be voted against then as well. So it isn't as hard and stone as you think it is. On the basis that most of the questions seem to be around that area, and it might be quite nice to move to debate, can I propose that we accept the recommendations on this report? And I don't know if there's a seconder for that.
Councillor Mason. You say.
Well done.
Right, I've been advised. Yeah, so we're now open up to debate on, we've got a proposition and a seconder, so we're now open for debate on that proposition. Councillor Wootton.
Chairman, with respect, I thought I asked a question and I was really looking for some legal guidance from officers rather than Councillor Hoy's useful intervention. Thank you.
Any other questions before we take a vote? No? Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs Mason.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question. I would just like to say that having been through a review of the Constitution, it is a lengthy process. It's a difficult process. And yes, if this decision was made, I don't think it can be made. I think it has to be made at annual council. But if it was made at a later date, then we wouldn't have the time to put the quality of work in that we need to. What this council needs to do and what the proposal is that we have a whole year to put a very detailed and considered proposal forward. And as Councillor Hoy has pointed out, the council has the right to change its mind if that detail then becomes inadequate. But I do think that we need to go ahead with this. It's something that I think the residents, certainly the ones I speak to, would like, because it's easy to understand. It is, I accept Councillor Ward's point that it is, I've seen a committee system in action. I've been on the council, not on the council at that time, but I've observed enough to say it is more lengthy, but it's also tremendously more democratic. So, thank you.
Yes, guys. Go ahead, sir. Sorry. I'm pushing buttons here, nothing's happening, but Bob, if you want to say something.
Yes, thank you. The advantage of a committee system, it does give a voice, particularly when you've got minority parties. I'm sorry about that. It does give a voice when you've got minority parties. And at the moment, we have an MOU, and a proportional committee system has got that advantage. I mean, are we saying that the old cabinet system was in fact a dazzling success? So my view is that this is something we should be seriously looking at and should progress with the recommendation tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would like to have a recorded vote on this, and I would like each item to be taken separately. I'm very conscious of the fact that some of us are going to feel that we're voting blind on some of these items because we haven't got enough information. That is my biggest concern. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, sorry, I just needed to look this up in the first instance, and I'm looking to deal with Councillor Wootton's question. It is silent about the governance arrangements, but what it says is that annual council will actually deal with changes to committees and subcommittees in the terms of reference for them. So I think from that, you can say that your constitution actually requires that this is done at annual council meeting. So it is within the constitution, and I think, Councillor Wootton, your question was, could we amend the constitution so that it wasn't? And so the answer to that, from what I see here, is yes, you could.
Happy with it? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chairman. I just, in a sense, going back to my earlier question, is this an irrevocable decision, irrespective of the outcomes of cost, for example? Will we see a comparison between the cost of the current system and the cost of the new system at some point in the future? And all the other matters that have been raised.
Chairman, we are now into the debate arena, but I would expect any business case and the details of this to actually include the cost. You know, I think that will be a very important element of this.
Councillor Hoy, put your hand up.
Sir, I thought Councillor Mr Mason was indicating before me. I'm happy to go before Councillor Mr Mason if he... Just coming back to this, I can understand concerns from members who've operated under the cabinet system for many years, and it's supposed advantages. I have campaigned for 10, 12 years to have a committee system in this council. Our residents are quite well aware of the pros and the cons, if you like, of such a system. We've put them in leaflets over the years. I have researched this myself. This is not going to be a working party which just sits us all down together to go through it. I've asked about having assistance from perhaps the LGA or other bodies around this. This is a serious subject, and we must get it right. There are cabinet system. There are committee systems which range from something very close to a cabinet system down to what you might consider maybe a much freer committee system, and it's up to us all, to decide what's best for this council. I think when you have this number of different groups on a council, and I don't see that changing much, I think it's been shown in other councils that the committee system would work much better. It gives councillors much more say over what happens within the council. And I hope that we as councillors are strong enough that we make it and keep it a member-led council. So I understand the points Councillor Wall's making, but I think this is the first step, and we want everybody involved, and we want critical thought as well as positive thought. And so I welcome that, because we've got to get it right, and without the people criticising it, we could get it wrong. So that's what I want to say, but I'll be supporting all 4 motions. Thank you.
Councillor Mason, you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure my voice is going to hold out, but let's have a go. I'm grateful to Councillor Ward having raised those issues with past members of the council, those who would have been on the council before 2007. We could have had a chat, Councillor Ward, because you may not have recall, I was actually elected in 2000. And I served continuously to 2019. So I have had experience of both systems, and more particularly, in the first 2 years of my term on the council, it was an NOC council. And that NOC council worked as well as it could, and probably better if there had have been a cabinet system in place. In other words, the committee system benefited the NOC. We've had to do some very clever thinking, some open thinking, creative thinking around how we run an administration, a joint administration no less, in an NOC situation. We've been through every single hoop that anyone could ever have imagined. I think it would have been much easier had there been a committee system. I know so, because I was there and I've been there before. On a personal basis, I've got to tell you that for the first 6 or 7 years of my time on the council, I was a single member, and I had a great deal of involvement through the committee system in all sorts of issues. Nothing was related back to an executive where I couldn't make a decision, I couldn't have a vote. And the benefits have been laid out in the summary of the report that Mr. Hunkin has put before us. So I take your point, Councillor Ward. When it comes to giving evidence about how a committee system has worked in Rochford District Council, I will be very happy to give that evidence to the working party. I would be happy to not be directly involved in the decision making, but act as a witness to answer questions honestly and openly about how it was and how it was afterwards. Okay, so I see personally the benefits of the committee system, and I shall be supporting the 4 recommendations. I agree completely with Councillor Hoy, who reminds us that even within the executive system, certainly within the committee system, there is a very wide range of structures that can be employed. We have to examine those. We have to examine the costs. We have to examine the benefits. We have to involve our residents who, behind me, I know, are saying, don't stop. Make sure this opportunity to examine the committee system against the executive system, do it, please. Make sure it happens. We are the custodians of that decision. We have to give it our all to ensure that we make the right decision about it. We have the mechanism within the recommendations to do so, and we have the time. It is going to be number 1 on the list of things we wish to achieve as administration by the end of this year. We won't shirk it. I know you won't either. So, with the joint administration, as I spoke earlier when I was elected leader, is firmly in favour of the committee style system. And as such, we will wish to see the recommendations go through tonight to give us the opportunity to do this work. Thank you, Chairman.
Members, I think we've discussed this at some length, and really, I mean, we could go backwards and forwards on opinions, and really, at the stage we are now, we do have this opportunity to look at it and revalue it. But Councillor Wotton, I'll give you the last opportunity.
That's kind of you, Chairman. Thank you very much indeed. Look, I'll say at the outset, I have absolutely no fixed view on this, and I don't think anyone should have any fixed view, because we're waiting to hear what the details of what this proposal entails. My personal view is I think it's not a bad idea. I think it's quite a good idea, especially in a council with no overall control. So I will come off the fence and say that my perception of it is a good idea. But then when I look at the report itself, it talks about at least 6 months between the decision to change governance models and the implementation date. How can you make a decision until you know the implications of that decision and the detail of it? I listened to the leaders' formation of the administration tonight, and my perception, but I could be corrected, is that it may be a more expensive administration than the one that the Conservative administration ran previously. I look at recommendation 1, and I've heard clarification from officers that actually we're not bound for the year prescription. And I would have indeed been concerned if this had drifted on for 2 years, just because of a commitment under the Constitution. But we've heard tonight that we can vary that. So for that reason, I see no reason why we can't extend it. But I'm not just talking about procrastinating indefinitely. I'm talking about a proper structured process. In the words of these recommendations can't come forward until about December 2023, earlier if possible. I'm fully in favour of getting to a stage where we can debate this even earlier than December 2023. The independent remuneration panel. It's about time that there was a review of members' allowances in any case, because there's a normal 4-year interval between incremental drift. So that is one heading. Then, of course, there's the other heading of what would the remuneration panel say in the event of a committee system, and what would they say in the event of a cabinet system. So I think we need to understand what the terms of reference are on R3. And then, of course, if you look at R4, it talks about March 24, and for the reasons that I've said, I just think it would be nice to give ourselves the option. If it can be agreed at annual council next year and you know, it progresses, I've got absolutely no problem with that. And I don't believe my group would have. But I just think these are far too tight and it would be normal practice to actually fully understand the implications of the committee system, which I repeat, in broad terms, I think I favour, but I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Ward, we need to get on with this and to look at a vote. I understand we need a fifth of members for a recorded vote. Do you have a fifth of the membership?
I
Would
would
you
hope
please
that
stand?
those members would stand for this.
Yeah.
Recorded.
That position is carried. We'll have a
Thank you.
Recorded vote. Right, members, we have nominations and we've had a seconder. We'll now take a vote, a recorded vote on the recommendations as per item 16. We're doing all of them, yeah? That is all the items on the agenda. Thank you.
Chairman, point of order, I'm not quite clear. Are we voting on all 4 items together or independently?
Separately. Members, to clarify this then, are members happy to take this all in one sitting or to take each item? Well, no, we're taking each item as a vote. Recorded vote, please.
So members, recommendation 1, councillor Mrs Belton, for, against or abstain. Councillor Booth. 4. Councillor Mrs Brewer. Councillor Mrs Butcher. Councillor Carter. Councillor Constable. Councillor Cripps. Councillor Cross.
4.
Councillor FD.
4.
Councillor Eaves.
4.
Councillor Foster. Councillor Mrs Gadsden. Councillor Gooding.
4.
Councillor Mrs Gooding. 4. Councillor Hoy.
4.
Councillor Lambourne.
4.
Councillor Lawman.
4.
Councillor Linden.
4.
Councillor Mrs Mason. Councillor Elliot Mason. Councillor John Mason.
4.
Councillor Milne.
4.
Councillor James Newport. Councillor Lisa Newport. Councillor Mrs Page. 4. Councillor Mrs Shaw. Councillor Sperring.
Abstain.
Councillor Mrs Squires Coleman. Councillor Stanley.
4.
Councillor Steptoe. Councillor Ward. Councillor Williams.
4.
Councillor Mr Wilson. Councillor Mrs Wilson. Councillor Wotton.
Abstain.
Yeah. And 11 abstentions.
Right, members, that's a recorded vote. It's 24 for and 11 abstain, none against. So that is carried. Then we'll go right. Then we'll have recommendations, item 2.
Recommendation 2. Councillor Mrs Belton.
For.
Councillor Booth. Councillor Mrs Brewer. Councillor Mrs Butcher. Councillor Carter. Councillor Constable. Councillor Cripps. Councillor Cross. Councillor FD.
For.
Councillor Eaves. Councillor Foster. Councillor Mrs Gadsden. Councillor Mr Gooding.
For.
Councillor Mrs Gooding.
For.
Councillor Hoy. Councillor Lambourne. Councillor Lawman.
For.
Councillor Linden. Councillor Mrs Mason.
For.
Councillor Elliot Mason. Councillor John Mason. Councillor Milne. Councillor Mr Newport. Councillor Lisa Newport. Councillor Mrs Page.
For.
Councillor Mrs Shaw. Councillor Sperring.
For.
Councillor Mrs Squires Coleman. Councillor Stanley. Councillor Steptoe. Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Councillor Mr Wilson. Councillor Mrs Wilson. Councillor Wotton.
For.
Members, that item is 34 for, no against, and 1 abstain. That's passed.
Next one.
Yes.
Members, we'll now take item 3, the independent remuneration panel.
Recommendation 3. Councillor Mrs Belton.
For.
Councillor Booth. Councillor Mrs Brewer. Councillor Mrs Butcher.
This one.
Councillor
Because of the
Carter.
time.
Councillor Constable. Councillor Cripps.
We could do that.
Councillor Cross. Councillor FD.
For.
Councillor Eaves. Councillor Foster. Councillor Mrs Gadsden. Councillor Mr Gooding.
For.
Councillor Mrs Gooding.
For.
Councillor Hoy. Councillor Lambourne. Councillor Lawman.
For.
Councillor Linden. Councillor Mrs Mason. Councillor Elliot Mason. Councillor John Mason. Councillor Milne. Councillor Mr Newport. Councillor Mrs Newport. Councillor Mrs Page.
For.
Councillor Mrs Shaw. Councillor Sperring.
For.
Councillor Mrs Squires Coleman. Councillor Stanley. Councillor Steptoe. Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Councillor Mr Wilson. Councillor Mrs Wilson. Councillor Wotton.
For.
Members, that's 35 for, no against, and no abstentions, so that's carried. We'll now take item 4, the monitoring officer in consultation with the Constitution Working Group.
Recommendation 4. Councillor Mrs Belton.
Abstain.
Councillor Booth. Councillor Mrs Brewer, Councillor Mrs Butcher, Councillor Carter, Councillor Constable, Councillor Cripps, Councillor Cross, Councillor FD,
4.
Councillor Eaves, Councillor Foster, Councillor Mrs Gadsden, Councillor Mr Gooding, Councillor Mrs Gooding, 4. Councillor Hoy. Say it again. 4. Thank you. Councillor Lambourne. 4. Councillor Lawman.
4.
Councillor Linden. 4. Councillor Mrs Mason. 4. Councillor Elliot Mason. Councillor John Mason. 4. Councillor Milne. 4. Councillor Mr Newport. 4. Councillor Mrs Newport. 4. Councillor Mrs Page. 4. Councillor Mrs Shaw. Councillor Sperring.
Abstain.
Councillor Mrs Squires Coleman. Councillor Stanley. 4. Councillor Steptoe. 4. Councillor Ward.
Abstain.
Councillor Williams.
4.
Councillor Mr Wilson. 4. Councillor Mrs Wilson. 4. Councillor Wotton.
Abstain.
Members, the result of that vote is 25 for, 10 abstentions and none against, so that's carried. Members, if I could now, having finished with that item, take you back to item 14, the agenda item 14. It does talk about a discussion. Councillor Bale.
Thank you, Chairman. Referring to Councillor Christine Mason's earlier point and the complexity of the voting of item 14, and given that it's 10 to 10, I would put forward a motion to defer this item to the next full council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Chairman. I was about to just bring that up.
Yeah.
Well interrupted. Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Chairman. There's just one minor point with regards to the outside body committee for the London Southend Airport Consulting Committee. I actually represent Essex County Council in it, and I know that there is a meeting tomorrow at 1:45. So can I suggest, Chairman, that perhaps you take that particular one, as you've got a little bit of time, so those members that are nominated on it can attend the meeting tomorrow, and if they so wish to do so and need agenda, I'm quite happy to make sure that they get the necessary paperwork.
You'd have to do an extension of time for that.
The Chairman, if I can just comment on that. In that, it was known a few weeks ago that we would have a meeting tomorrow. Obviously, you have a number of nominations for that particular one here, which will take some time to go through. But I think the decision was made at that time that there wouldn't be representatives of Rochford at tomorrow's meeting because nobody would have actually had the time to have read the papers. But if you wish to, then obviously you can.
Councillor Hoy.
There's no way you can get through that in 5 minutes.
Sorry, Chairman, can you just clarify that? Can you confirm that you're saying that the meeting is going ahead? But if we don't nominate now, we will not be in attendance for that meeting. I mean, if that is the case, I think I agree with Councillor Steptoe, and I think we should at least nominate for that meeting. I can attend tomorrow at 1:45, no problem.
Just that one. Just that one. You need to.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Are we voting to extend the meeting or not? I think that's what was
Just re-advise them, the point of order has to be, I'm actually going to bring up the idea of an extension, so that point of order is already, that's what we're discussing here to see where we're going with this one, because the time is pressing. Thank you.
Chairman, I am in members' hands for that. You know, I would point out, you know, obviously you've asked for extension to the meeting yet, which hasn't been dealt with. But the meeting is tomorrow. I know that officers haven't had time to brief members on that, but I do take Councillor Hoy's point as well, and he's one of the nominations on here. But we are asking, we have 5 nominations for 3 appointments, and it will take some time to actually do that for one meeting tomorrow.
Members, I'm going to read to you that the meeting has now lasted roughly 2 hours, so we will shortly take a 10-minute comfort break. First, though, I would like to move a motion without notice according to committee procedure rule 9N to extend the meeting beyond 2.5 hours for as long as practical in order to complete the business. So, right, I was going to say, have I got a seconder? Right. That's what I said, the recommendation. That's where we've got a second, there's no recommendation, then I'm afraid that we're going to have to defer this other item to the next council so that we can discuss it another time.
Sorry, Chairman, I was going to propose that we extend the council business just to deal with the item of appointing nominees for London Southend Airport Consultative Committee. That would appear to be urgent. I'd also like to add, I'm rather surprised that in 2 weeks of discussions with officers, this was never brought up.
What we're going to do? What we're going to do?
We've got Councillor Wootton.
Members, I'm aware there's many hands going up here. This is going to extend us to our meeting, so it might push us into this position of taking a decision about extending this meeting. So, well, you've said no, so, you know, I mean, we've got to make a point.
They need to vote. They need to vote.
We need a vote to extend, otherwise...
Chairman, point of order.
Yeah.
I believe under the Constitution you're required to have a seconder. If I heard correctly, you didn't actually get a seconder to your proposal, so actually the proposal falls, doesn't it?
That was basically, Councillor Wootton, was what I was saying, really, that we haven't got a vote, so we would have extended it if we had the vote.
Sorry, point of order. I have put a proposal forward to extend the meeting for the duration of how long, ever long it takes to decide the nominees for the outside body of London Southend Airport Consultative Committee. All I need is a second for that, and we can just do that.
I'll
item.
second that, Chairman. Thank you. Councillor, councillors, we come back to the issue about extension. Now, you've got a choice here. If we take a vote on it and you turn that vote down for extension, that puts pay to any decision to further go any decision. So I'm... Sorry?
Chairman, can I offer a solution? Because this will take some time. Again, you'd all had to note there about how to do the voting, and you'll have to go through a vote of all 5 for the first seat, all 4 for the second seat, all 3. You see where I'm coming from with regards to this. We were just discussing this. I'm wondering, you know, we have the nominations there, or we have members here. Is there anybody who wishes to attend on behalf of the Rochford District Council tomorrow? And if there is, then we could just agree that for the one meeting tomorrow.
That to me makes sense. Councillor Steptoe, you brought it up. Is it you that wanted to?
No, he's going as a county.
Chairman, no, I am already a member of the ACC as a representative for Essex County Council. So I'm quite happy to represent Rochford if you so wish, if the councillors wish me to do that and report back, but I don't really think that is correct.
Councillor Hoy.
Who wants to know?
So I was just saying I would be willing to attend tomorrow.
And who else? Is that Councillor Hall?
Councillor Shaw.
Actually, oh, sorry. How can members who have not actually been appointed to the committee actually go to the committee meeting? It must be, if they're doing that, it's got to be the members that are already on the committee. Members that have not been elected cannot go on it. We have now voted for not to have an extension, and I suggest we all go home and do this at the next meeting. Thank you.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion to go forward with the vote. I've proposed it, and there was a seconder for it, and I think we should just vote.
Mr Chairman, can I ask that that vote be put, so we save time? You've got a proposer, a seconder. Instead of debating it, let's vote on it.
Members, I'm gonna put my position in this. We've now gone past our closing time. I did ask if you wanted to extend this meeting and there was a no. And as far as I'm concerned, that motive, that situation.
Sorry, the point of order, Chairman, there was not a no.
The member will sit down.
It was not seconded, and I put forward a valid motion.
Sorry, Mr Chairman, if I can clarify, you did suggest it, but there was no seconder. So can we please, I've asked correctly against the Constitution that you have a motion on the table, which has been seconded, and I've asked it to be put. When that is asked, it should be effected. Forthwith, thank you.
Councillor Lamble.
I was trying to second that motion and you all ignored me, so maybe sitting at the back here.
Well, members, I'm telling you now, it's becoming a bit of a free-for-all. I'm going to put my foot down and we're going to have to come to a conclusion on this one. We either extend this meeting or we close the meeting. And it's as simple as that. And we didn't have a second of it.
I was trying to second it. You ignored me.
Chairman, with greatest of respect, it's now 2 minutes past 10 and I think we're out of time in any case.
Right, members, the motion was put forward. Councillor Lambourne apparently had his hand. So, well, you've got a choice. If you say no on a vote, then it's a no. We can't go down this circus, I'm telling you.
So vote.
So, right. We haven't got an extension. You haven't got an extension.
What can do?
Members, I've been advised by the monitoring officer and the chief executive that there is no motion and we've gone extending our time, so I shall be closing the meeting. And this item will go on to the next meeting. So in accordance with that then, the conclusion of the business then is now gone, well, it's nearly 10:05. And I will thank you all for being here. We'll deal with this other issue at the next meeting. And so you've got to do that then.
Yeah. Members of the audience and members of the council, please be upstanding whilst the chairman and chief executive retire from the meeting. Members of the public, can you please make your way out of the hall and out of the building via the main entrance? Thank you all for your attendance. Very upset with Jack. They were trying to.